In what should be a surprise to absolutely no one, we are, at least at time of recording, just shy of 2 hours of a vast majority of the polls closing. Donald Trump has already won New Hampshire. I know, right? The Nikki Haley brigade couldn't quite turn out the numbers that she was delusionally expecting, but hey, we're here now, bro. Can we just go ahead and roll up this primary process because it's become farcical? But oh wait, I've got some clips, I've got some documents to read, and guess what? This ain't over. Well, it really should be over because it's like Nikki Haley, this was her best shot, man. We're still seeing results come in. We'll probably check in with this a couple of different times over because we only have 23% of the vote, and I seen after the polls closed at about 23 minutes after. Don't know exactly which polls they were looking at, or sorry, which ballots they were counting in which counties, but yeah, Haley and Trump were neck and neck at 50%, but as you can see right now, Trump is, he's starting to pull away 11%. It's not going to be that, 70-30 that I was thinking. It's like, there's an outside chance on that, but if Nikki Haley was delusional enough to think that she had an outside chance of winning this primary, bro, it's only downhill from here, because we've looked at polls day in, day out, and this was her best shot to gain any sort of traction. Sure, she'll pick up a couple of delegates, but I think she has a lot of donors on her staff, okay? She has a lot of donors, and she has a lot of consultants that need to collect a paycheck, and with literally everybody else dropping out of the race, this would be the point in time after the ballots finally end up getting counted, and then her double-digit defeat is ultimately secured to really just, call it a day, call it a campaign. I guess it's not my time. She can go ahead and run this out because we see that she's going to be the hand-picked establishment candidate going forward into 2028. She's regrettably young enough, even though she doesn't look a day of it, to try this stuff again. So if she wants to do that rematch with a potential VP pick, Vivek Ramaswamy, and oh boy, we're not just putting that idea out into the ether and hoping that it manifests. It's really looking like a strong possibility, okay? And if Trump knows what's good for him, he will go ahead and pick that man, but we'll talk about that in due time. But right now, we'll just go ahead and take this victory lap because, yeah, this was about an hour after polls closed, and then they just started tallying. It's like, yeah, no, it's not as bad as a bloodbath as Iowa was, but yeah, we can already call it for the dawn. He's the projected winner in New Hampshire, 2024 Republican primary. Ex-president defeats Nikki Haley in first sweep of the two early voting states in nearly 50 years. Yeah, man. I don't want to say that it was like a prophecy that Trump was going to end up winning just about every primary for this election cycle, but for the love of God, man, everybody knew, this race, this primary race, the primary season, it was over back when Trump announced his candidacy. What was that, in October? Actually, no, it was earlier than that. It's May. It was done and dusted then. Yeah, this right here, this historic result, once again, only bolsters Trump. He's one of two people that actually came out of this primary process looking better and having brighter political futures at the conclusion of this than the rest of the field. But anyways, Donald Trump has won the New Hampshire Republican primary and tightened his grip on the GOP presidential nomination over his last opponent, Nikki Haley. Yeah, everybody else has dropped out. They called in the fat lady to sing, but unfortunately, Chrissy dropped out even before Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy because, well, he knew what was good for him. And has anybody heard from that fat disaster recently? He hasn't made any public appearance. Can we get a wellness check? Can somebody call around to a bunch of Dunkin' Donuts in the New Jersey area just to make sure that he's all right and he's not, self-suffocating? Because that'd be really tragic. I don't think that the makers of the Yokozuna coffin have really kept up on their business prospects recently. The former president, 77, is now inching closer to a rematch with Joe Biden. Is it really? Come on now. Oh yeah, and by the way, the Democratic primary was also held, and yeah, they did call it for Biden, surprise, surprise, in the 2024 general election after winning his second contest in the space of 8 days. That's normally what happens with an incumbent. Come on, man. The AP called the race shortly after polls closed, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, the polls officially closed in most places at 7 p.m. Eastern time, 5 for me. And I gave it a little bit of time before I was like, well, let's just check in. Oh, no, they already called it. All right. The victory came about a week after his win in Iowa caucuses. Yes, that was last Monday. Oh, boy, time flies when you're beaten despicable neocons, now doesn't it? Trump is the first GOP candidate in almost 50 years to sweep both contests, an indication of his iron grip on the Republican Party. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden won the Democratic contest despite not being on the ballot in New Hampshire. Yeah, because he was protesting it, because I think the way that it worked out is the Democrats didn't want New Hampshire for whatever reason to be the first primary. They wanted South Carolina to, so that they just withdrew and protest Joe Biden's name from the ballot. And then RFK's over there in the corner just going, really interesting. Speaking of people we haven't heard from in a long time. Anyways, Trump and his team have been using his victories to pressure Nikki Haley to drop out of the presidential race. But oh boy, I got news for you. That's just not going to happen, despite popular opinion. But I want to take a look at the rest of the people that are currently lining up on both sides of this battle divide. Like, one's an obvious losing battle, but if you just want to set yourself up in a political adjacent future, like if you want to secure a talking head position on Fox News or CNN or any one of those failing cable networks, you're going to go ahead and line up on one side of the aisle. But if you have future political aspirations and you understand the future of the party, like, I don't even like most of the people up there in that picture, but they know where the political winds are blowing. Like Tim Scott, I don't trust him. I don't trust him at all. And Doug, one size too small suit jacket, Burnham, governor of North Dakota. Okay, he was one of the early people to drop out of the race, mostly because, well, the sun came up and had to retreat back to his castle. But they were there in support of Donald Trump ahead of today's election, and giving them his, full endorsement, and then also trying to secure a cabinet position moving forward, even though Tim Scott has got, one of the two senatorships out of South Carolina. And oh yeah, you take one of the most popular senators, at least by name recognition, and you give him your endorsement in a state where you are heartily supported. Yeah, and how does Nikki Haley think that South Carolina is going to work out better for her? It's like your polling numbers look atrocious, but that's all right, man. Okay, so you can see, of the former candidates that were on the dais that have, bowed out gracefully, Doug Burgum, Tim Scott, and of course, the one guy that I'm not mentioning yet, mostly because, well, I just want to do a little bit more of a deep dive into what he's doing out there. But yeah, all of those guys made the right decision and are currently making the right decision. And unfortunately, we can't say the exact same thing for the other person, the other notable little, well, I would say elephant in the room, but normally that implies somebody with a grandiose stature. But little Ron DeSantis is back there in Florida, just absolutely seething. Okay, so he's out there quote tweeting, some Florida Republicans want taxpayers to pay, oh yes, Trump's legal bills. I haven't really seen that call out there, and I just mostly think that people are kind of the opinion that, yeah, all of those lawsuits that are pending against Trump, they are 1,000%. It's just political lawfare. And I think we can all come to that conclusion, whether you like the guy or you don't. It's pretty scummy tactics. But I don't think anybody was like, oh yeah, no, the taxpayer needs to pay for Trump's legal bills. I'm sure that it's probably some weird interpretation of certain laws that are on the books about, public officials being sued, and that could end up being covered by taxpayer dollars. Not entirely sure about that. But then you got Ron DeSantis, completely and totally unprompted, but not the Florida Republican who wields the veto pen. Like, yo, what a sack of absolute trash, because, well, you had that whole, capitulatory video that you put up there over the weekend. And, well, you were also making some parting shots at Trump, so I guess this isn't quite coming out of left field. But you're really, okay, for as many kudos as I tried to give you for trying to resuscitate your flagging political career post-governorship in Florida, you just really decided to double down with the losing side of this equation. Good stuff, I guess. Have fun in obscurity. Good thing that you can't go for a second re-election. You're, I don't know, instead of trying to fit yourself for the White House, you're just really trying to fit yourself for that soon-to-be vacant Mitt Romney role, where you're just going to be that stalking rhino in a comfy seat until you just get fed up with losing all the time. But I'm going to go with somebody, like I said before, somebody who ended up bolstering a much better political persona post the primaries than anybody else on that dais. Like Vivek Ramaswamy went from general obscurity to everybody going, yeah, he'd be a great VP, by the way. Like, he totally, at Ron DeSantis's political trajectory and he's like, ooh, that's mine now. Not too dissimilar to our greatest ally, but no, him out there sharing memes, yo, that's absolutely hilarious, okay? The time that he dunked on Nikki Haley and, well, like her presidential aspirations in this election cycle, they've been dashed for a long time, but that really put the nail in the coffin on that one. And Vivic firmly entrenching himself in the Trump camp is a brilliant stroke of genius. Like, a lot of people are skeptical about some of the motivations of Vivic, but I truly believe that he loves America and he wants to see it be made, to steal a phrase, made great again. He's doing what he can in order to make that a reality. So, by cozying up to Trump, by hopping on that red-hot locomotive, then, offering value in receipt of value, he's really proving to be a very good political ally. And as Clint from Liberty Lockdown points out, Trump just gave credit. This was in the yesterday press conference where all the boys got together and, made big speeches, but Trump got up there, took the podium, and gave full credit to Vivic to alerting him about the dangers of central bank digital currency. So basically state-sponsored Bitcoin, which is very dangerous for a multitude of reasons, but another topic for another day. He proceeds to promise that he will never allow for one to be created. This is really good news, as a CBDC would lead to complete financial tyranny. And it's also good, for the future of the MAGA movement, for the future of the evolution of the Republican Party, because as much as I like Trump, the political prospects in a post-Trump landscape, they look pretty grim. They looked pretty grim is what I should be saying, because at least Vivic, he's trying real hard to go ahead and pick up that torch and run it forward into the future to continue the movement that Trump, kind of picked up from the likes of, early Reagan and Barry Goldwater and true conservatism. Anyways, Vivic leads New Hampshire crowd in thunderous vote for Trump chant. If you want to seal the border, if you want to restore law and order in this country, if you want to defeat the deep state, if you want to fight inflation, if you want to revive national pride in this country, if you want to revive our national identity in this country, if you want to make America great again, that's what he's talking about. Former Republican presidential candidate, C-SPAN? No. Future Republican vice presidential candidate. And in 2028, well, maybe you could just drop that former completely and totally off the marquee.
If you want to seal the border, vote Trump. If you want to restore law and order in this country, vote Trump. If you want to defeat the deep state, vote Trump. If you want to fight inflation, vote Trump. If you want to revive national pride in this country, vote Trump. If you want to revive our national identity in this country, vote Trump. If you want to make America great again, vote Trump. That's how we're going to win this in a landslide in November, like Reagan delivered in 1980. If you want...
Yo, that's for the tepid crowd that they eventually did catch on. That's what Vivic does just about as well as Trump and better than everybody else that's out there, okay? His ability to captivate and interact with a crowd is something that the GOP has struggled to do with for as long as I can remember. In a pre-Trump world, it was always like, it was the stodgy, country club party, right? Like, that's the way that they were always presented as. And well, of course, the establishment side of this thing, because as you can see here, with the mega Avengers assemble, okay, there are a few people that are missing. We talked about Ron DeSantis. That's right there. Obviously, somebody who's been handpicked by the establishment. And then, of course, you got the political adversary of choice. And this clip ended up making the rounds over the weekend. And oh my God, Nikki Haley complains about how hard it was to grow up in the deep South as a brown girl. I was teased every day for being brown. I was kicked out of beauty pageants. To be completely honest, if you were kicked out of beauty pageants for being brown and that was the visage that you were cutting at these beauty pageants, yeah, I think you got kicked out for other reasons other than being brown. But living in the South in the 80s as a brown girl, where, what are the demographics of the South again? Oh yeah, right. Very interesting that you tried to pull the race card. on top of your perpetual pulling of the woman card. Yeah, it's very strange. Color me a little bit skeptical that that's a story that actually happened at all. But I love that, Tristan Tate, chimed in on this. Remember when Hillary told a black audience that she carried hot sauce around in her purse to sound down with the brothers? Oh my God, on top of all of those. I think that might have actually been during 2008? Because I know that she put on the black scent in front of the crowd when she was campaigning against Barack Obama. I ain't been a long ways tired. Oh, Hillary Clinton was the cringe machine that Nikki Haley wishes that she was. Like, at least there's memes about Hillary Clinton. There's not going to be anything about Nikki Haley by the time that this thing is officially done. Like, you're going to get you'd have lie dead, little Barco, Ron DeSanctimonious. But I've retired that. Maybe he'll continue to just wheel out bird brain, mostly because I find that to be hilarious. But hopefully Boeing kept your seat nice and comfy, because that's going to be the only position other than horizontal in the back of a Suburban that you're going to be able to assume moving into the future. But perhaps everybody else doesn't have to make up the memes for Nikki Haley. Perhaps she just simply is one. Town Hall descends into a laugh factory. Yeah, let's just play this clip right here, because this is something that happened at the same time that Trump was holding a rally. Nikki Haley decided to hold a rally, and it's like, guys, you got to come out and vote for me. And what's the totals looking at right now? Fantastic stuff. Trump pulled out to a 13-point lead with 29% voting. Might end up getting to that 20% or that 20-point victory line, because what were the final polls? About 15 and change. Yeah, Nikki, you're doing fantastic. But at least you have one fan. Well, you thought you did for a second.
But you know what? We've got a lot on the line here. We really do. And you look at what's happening in this election. Yes. Are you going to vote for me?
Oh, I'm sorry for the people that are probably just, listening to this and not watching the video. Somebody shouts out in the crowd, "Nikki, will you marry me?" And then, she doubles over in laughter. It's like, oh my God, people like me because I'm a woman. See, that's obvious right there, okay?
Are you going to vote for me?
And then, no, I'm voting for Trump.
Get out of here.
And then has him thrown out of there. Oh my God, she's so fantastic. So she's doing the I can't take a joke card. I'm just going to go ahead and play all of the virtue signaling cards. Okay, I'm going to do a cheap-ass Hillary Clinton impression. But oh wait, there's actually more to this. Nikki Haley says Trump supporters are not normal people, echoing Hillary Clinton's basket of deplorables comment. Yeah, very much. Nikki Haley said on Fox and Friends this morning, she was on Fox and Friends, that President Trump supporters aren't normal people. Well, what else did she have to say?
Normal people are not listening to what the media is saying. Normal people are saying, we want somebody that can go 8 years, that's going to...
Yeah, they're not normal people because they don't listen to the media. Like this... Everything about her campaign is everything that people hated about the George Bush era and prior to that Republican Party. The establishment hacks that are completely and totally out of touch. They just simply want to do the mass media line. People that think that the solutions to 21st century problems are the antiquated notions of a 20th century ideal. That's just not happening. It's not accurate. It's not honest. It simply emphasizes that the GOP establishment and Laura Loomer are out here, okay, saying that Democratic presidential candidate Nikki Haley. No. You don't need to go ahead and conflate any of that stuff, because Nikki Haley, she's very much a Republican. An establishment Republican, and that's what people are distancing themselves from. Don't conflate this. Don't try to just, diminish her accomplishments. Because she was a governor, she was a UN ambassador, all under the Republican banner. And you can see all of the establishment hacks circle her bandwagon and then just want to push her until the bitter end, as it's being laid out right there, that she's not giving up after this absolute trouncing in a head-to-head matchup with Trump. She has much more lofty aspirations, because there are people on the payroll, and then there's also a future to consider, because if she can go ahead and champion that she fought until the bitter end while everybody else on that crowded dais dropped out, she's a fighter, okay? Because the GOP absolutely hates winning. Like, it's kind of pathetic the way that they comport themselves, but there's still some life in those establishment hacks that are at the controls, okay? There's not enough people that have been drained from that swamp quite yet. But yeah, you're definitely, okay, to echo once again another saying from a great man, you gotta fight like hell. You want to see real, long-lasting change. Otherwise, in a post-Trump landscape, all of those tactics that they use to get Trump out of that position, they're just going to go ahead and use and wield or turn a blind eye to anybody else who wants to raise up in that mold, somebody who's actually popular with the population, somebody who can get elected in a general instead of just preaching to the converted, dwindling masses. Presidential candidate Nikki Haley has just released a new campaign statement regarding her game plan and focus after today's New Hampshire primary. Notice her messaging is focused on the long haul, and she once again makes an appeal to Democrats to vote in the primary, and that's what we've seen with the early influx. Okay, that's where I'm kind of thinking around some of the college areas that Trump's approval ended up dropping and hers going up. Yeah, I don't really know about that. Nikki Haley is the DNC's candidate for president. Well, that's actually pretty honest, at least when it comes to this primary, because they're out there. They used to share some of the clips that Ron DeSantis was dropping against Trump, but now they picked up the Nikki torch because they know with all of those astroturfed polls that are out there, oh, Nikki Haley will actually perform so much better against Trump. Let's just go ahead and take a look. What's the results out there? Beautiful. And we're only a third of a way in. By the morning, it's going to be a wrap. After the New Hampshire primary, as I've been reporting, she's headed to the Democrat haven of New York City for a mega donor fundraiser. Funny, Ron DeSantis actually did that right before he announced his candidacy. Strange things. With Democrat and Rhino donors, including bundlers from Mitt Romney's presidential campaign with Paul Ryan. Very interesting. I just want to read, a couple of the lines that we have right here. First up is Nikki's home state of South Carolina. What are the poll numbers like there? Well, they're even worse than New Hampshire, and we already know how that went. Which has no party registration, and anyone can vote from the Republican primary if they haven't already voted in the Democratic primary. Interesting. South Carolina elected Nikki Haley as governor twice, but she doesn't really like to talk about that. She just wants to go ahead and champion her globalism, her globalist roots as being the UN ambassador. Very strange. As a state representative, she beat the sitting lieutenant governor and sitting attorney general and the popular members of Congress. Ooh, the people of South Carolina know Nikki's strong conservative record because they lived it. Yeah, they did, and that's why they don't want to associate with her. They're more comfortable associated with Lindsey Graham than Nikki Haley. That should tell you something. After South Carolina, we head to Michigan, and then Washington, D.C., and then Idaho and North Dakota. Yeah! And then we go on to Super Tuesday, and then by that time, if she's still in the race right there, this bitch has absolutely no shame, but I wouldn't be surprised at all. Is she going to end up accruing any more delegates? Well, yeah, of course. As you can see, she's going to end up getting some at the end of the day, 20 up for grabs. I'm sure by the time that all of the totals do eventually roll in, yeah, she might end up picking 6 to 8 up. Like, I don't imagine that this split's going to get any better for her. Plus, of course, there's like a 4 a.m. ballot dump, and then all of a sudden 400,000 people just miraculously moved into New Hampshire and just have this burning desire to vote for Nikki Haley. Wow, it's not like we've never seen that before, but I'm pretty much resting assured, okay, given the fact that they've already called it Trump beat Haley. It's so nice. It's so nice to just report on a guy absolutely dominating a woman and not getting in trouble on the internet for it. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.